systems in place. So what happens is we tend to think that we're supposed to be the coach, the conditioning trainer. We're supposed to be the let's say the guy that sweeps the floors. We're supposed to do every single thing on the football field, even decide to be the wide receiver. Well, I realized that as you expand your way of thinking and you have a mind shift, a mindset shift, what's going to happen is you're going to get off the football field and get into the owner suite. And then you're going to start thinking about the big picture. You're going to say, how do we do marketing? How do we position ourselves? What is our brand? What relationships do we have on a large scale with contractors, businesses, lawyers? Are we set up so I can be the owner and walk away and do other stuff and the whole business can live on its own?
You are now listening to the Your First Steps podcast. It's great to talk about $1 million dreams, but where do we start? How do we get there? Listen up as you hear directly from real estate industry leaders on how they reach success in their fields. And most importantly, what were their first steps? Let's get this party started. Here's your host, Eli the Real Estate Guy.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode of the Your First Steps podcast. Today, we have a very, very special guest. He is a real estate investor and landlord and a retired investment banker. Today, we have no other than Mr. KR. KR, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing extraordinarily well. Thanks for having me on your platform. I'm so excited to share my story with you guys and my investment philosophy.
Awesome. Good deal. So for the folks that may not know who you are, go ahead and introduce yourself so they can get a better idea for who you are and where you're coming from.
Okay, so I grew up in Philadelphia with 6 siblings and a single parent household. My mother raised us. We were on welfare. We struggled. We moved around multiple times. We moved around at least, I had no idea that you move around at least 18 times before you turn 18. And my mother and father weren't military people. So it's fascinating. We just happen to have struggled with money. And so that from early on was one of the things that made me interested about money management and wealth creation. And I noticed that I didn't want to become like the bus driver or drug dealer or become like a regular teacher. I decided that I wanted to be the landlord because I realized the landlord had a lot of power. He got to tell us when to pay rent, when to leave, when to go. So it was fascinating to me as a young kid. And so as I grew up, I focused on that. And I went to public school in Philadelphia, was running the streets and stuff, but turned my life around, got a scholarship, and then went to go work on Wall Street. But it was when I turned in my mid-20s that I realized that it was time for me to go and invest in real estate. And so that's how I started to invest in real estate. I bought one property in 2009. By 2018, I got to 9 rental units. By 2019, I got to 35 rental units. And by 2020, I got to 105 rental units. And now I have over 120 plus. And that I really understood the importance of the 3 R's, which was build a track record, also build relationships, and therefore your reputation will precede you. And so my journey is quite fascinating to go from a kid that was homeless at one point. Our house had the 3rd floor had burned down, and we lived there, and then we bounced around and be able to do a 180 from just being a goofball to graduating from high school as valedictorian. It was really quite a journey so far.
Gotcha. I love that. That's a lot of information that you gave there. That's very huge. So I want to go back to your childhood, because what I notice is everyone that I interview, whenever whatever business they're doing, whether it's real estate, whether it's insurance, whatever it is, there are certain events that happen in their childhood that caused them to have like a light bulb moment, or it was that seed that later on grew into something. So before we get to, all the stuff that you're doing now, kind of take us back to like the root of, okay, this is how I grew up, and this is what I've seen, and this is what I experienced or learned from there. And then, take us to the moments that led there. So what was it like growing up in your household, like on the day to day?
Well, the thing is that I remember at one point where we were just bouncing around because my mother was on welfare and did small jobs. And so I was always meeting a new landlord and moving. We lived like on 50th and Walton on the uneven number side and on the even number side. So we put our stuff into a trash bag and just went right across the street. And all your friends said, damn, y'all moving again? Then we moved to 56 in Walton, 6 blocks up. And so my friends were like, whoa, this is crazy. And so that really stood out to me, and left an indelible mark about the uncertainty with regard to finances. Even though my mother had a big heart and she loved it, she wasn't good with finances. And I also noticed that the landlord had all the power. And some of those landlords were slumlords where they would just not fix things. And so I took it upon myself to say, all right, I'm going to figure out how to manage money. And I also want to know how to accumulate assets, even though I was only like 14. So I started to immerse myself in financial books and all those different things and start learning like the language. And from there, that was the impetus for me to want to change my life, because I remember one time my mother had said, you guys go spend some time with your stepdad. And we were living in a studio apartment. We had like 15 people living in a studio apartment in North Philly, 1704 North 5th Street, which was very, very rough neighborhood at the time. And what's fascinating is that we had a bathroom, but we only had a bathroom sheet with no door. We had a bathroom tub. We had no shower. And we had a hot plate. We had no stove. And we had to sleep on top of each other, all those people, nieces and nephews, brothers and sisters, and my stepdad. So it was a fascinating experience. All those experiences really opened me up to wanting to change my life. In particular, my stepdad at the time, I call him father, he had said, look, don't be an F up like me and some of your siblings. I can tell you what to do, but don't do as I do. So do as I say, not as I do, because he struggled. I could see that he was an imperfect man, but he was trying to encourage us to execute. And so he would call me the executioner. And so I decided to start taking steps to change my life to get out of that predicament.
Got you. I love it. I love it. So something that you said that was that really stood out to me is how you immerse yourself in books. And I'd say it was probably a few years ago to where or a couple years ago, I was doing this challenge. It's called the 75 Hard Challenge. I'm not sure if you heard of that. Where it's a guy, Andy Frisella. He said, work out twice a day, read 10 pages, a gallon of water, all these different things to do. And so at the time, I wasn't a big reader, but I was like, you know what? Because I'm doing this challenge, let me go ahead and start reading. And little by little, I just start picking up books. And it's like, you can kind of see like all these books behind me. And I'm like, picking up certain books, and I'm reading them. And I'm like, oh man, like, does everybody know that books have this amount of information in there? And it's like, and it sounds basic, but it's like, it wasn't something that was really taught to me in the sense of they would say, okay, read books, but it was more so of like the Harry Potters and, all these different things. And so when I thought about reading, it was more so of like, do this for enjoyment, but it wasn't that I enjoyed these books. But once I actually start picking up books that taught about finances and real estate, like the Rich Dad, Poor Dads, the all these other books that I start reading, then it was like, okay, this is eye-opening. And that's when I really start diving in to getting all these books and start learning. So with that, what made you decide to pick up a book? And what was that first book to make you realize like, okay, there's something about reading?
Well, the thing is that I always was interested in reading. I just didn't want to apply anything. And I think after having that conversation with my father really opened my eyes to really just believing, because I was always like a Christian. So I started with reading the Bible very much, and especially the New Testament, and just believed that I was highly favored, and just started to take a chance on faith and building from like having a faith the size of a mustard seed, and just believing that I could change my own life despite what my surroundings are. Despite how much stuff was thrown at me or taken away from me, where a brother was sentenced to murder, and my brother was sentenced to 12 years in prison for attempted murder, and my sister was murdered, and losing my parents at a young age. So all those things really opened my eyes up to say, all right, maybe I'm going to be similar to Job, and everything's going to be taken away from me. So I always encourage people to have a foundation. Don't necessarily become a Christian, but figure out where you fit in, because I don't like to impose my views on anybody. And so that's where it all started, from just opening up, reading the Bible and taking that seriously. And then that led to me to exploring other books by asking my mentors, what do they recommend? So that's where it all started.
Yeah. So what are some books that your mentors started to recommend that you started to read?
Well, I think that one of the good books is particular that you have to know how to communicate. And so one book I like is Effective Letters for Every Occasion. And so it's letting you know if someone passed away, what should you write? If you want someone to help you in terms of writing a recommendation, or you want to congratulate someone. So I think going back to the fundamentals, like effective letters for every occasion, is really important. I think another book that is great is Clockwork, where it's like design your business to run itself. So a lot of people, we tend to focus on working in our business. And as you really develop your skills, you need to step back and say, how do I work on my business? So therefore, you can go on a vacation for like 8 weeks or 9 weeks, and the operation keeps running. And so those are like two books that I really, really enjoyed reading.
Gotcha. So now, whenever you're talking about a business, so there's a guy named Vusi. He's a South African guy, and I watch a lot of his videos. And one thing that he says, and I heard this from a lot of people, not just him, is there's a difference between having a business and being self-employed. And the idea of you're able to leave like for 8 weeks, like how you're saying, and how things should still be able to run if you actually have a business. So have you ever found yourself in that self-employment mode and then you had to make a change, or from the beginning, did you just go straight to, I need to have building blocks, having a business?
No, I actually think so. It took me 9 years to get to 9 rental units. Remember, in 2009, I had 1. In 2018, I got to 9. And a lot of people said, KR, you're supposed to be smart and you think you know real estate. Why does it take you so long? And the reason why is because I was running my own race at my own pace. And so at that time period, I was still working my 9-to-5 job. And I also was spending some time pretty much like a self-employed person doing all property management by myself and screening tenants and all these different things, where I was working in the business. I would go to Home Depot with the contractor and all those different things. But then as I got into 2019, my 10th year, I started to see a major shift. So I was preparing myself to go from that self-employed to becoming a business, a real business. And so what happened is that now I had enough capital, the properties, I paid down the debt over that first 9 years. I was able to take advantage of tax benefits, able to save the cash flows, benefit from appreciation. So now I can borrow against those assets and buy apartment buildings. But I also had enough scale so I could start outsourcing and hiring people, whether that was more family members, and asking them, can you do the cleaning? Can you do this? Can you do the landscaping? And have enough money to pay them. And then not necessarily always have to go to Home Depot, but put the systems in place. So what happens is we tend to think that we're supposed to be the coach, the conditioning trainer. We're supposed to be the let's say the guy that sweeps the floors. We're supposed to do every single thing on the football field, even decide to be the wide receiver. Well, I realized that as you expand your way of thinking and you have a mind shift, a mindset shift, what's going to happen is you're going to get off the football field and get into the owner suite. And then you're going to start thinking about the big picture. You're going to say, how do we do marketing? How do we position ourselves? What is our brand? What relationships do we have on a large scale with contractors, businesses, lawyers? Are we set up so I can be the owner and walk away and do other stuff and the whole business can live on its own? And so that transition was taking place slowly over time from 2009 until 2019. So what happened is this full force. By now, I have enough people around me that can do the things that I need them to do. So I can go on a vacation in September to Cancun, Mexico next week. And then in October, I can go to New Orleans. Then in November, I can go to Vancouver, Canada. I went to Egypt this year. Last year, I went to Jamaica. I went to DR. I went to Mexico. So I can enjoy my life. I'm also writing a book because I understand the transition from being self-employed to being a person who runs a business. The person that runs a business is willing to give up some of the money because they understand you cannot run a real business without paying other people to do their job. So gotcha. You can decide to be self-employed. You keep everything to yourself, but you're not going to be able to grow.
Gotcha.
It's impossible.
I love it. I love it, man. And so you said something that was kind of powerful to where you're explaining being the coach, the wide receiver, the strength and conditioning person. Yeah. But in my mind, where I thought you were going to stop was being the coach. right? But then by saying to being in the owner suite, that's another level of they're doing everything. I'm hiring the pieces to do it.
Yeah,
And the owner doesn't even have to go to the game. I could be away. I could watch them while
yeah,
I'm on vacation. The game is still going. That's huge. That is
yeah.
huge. Okay, I like that. I like that. So now something that I would see from different investors, there's like a debate of should you pay off your properties and just keep them paid off, or should you constantly be refinancing? So what is your thought process of having properties that's paid off so that you can just have an increase in cash flow, or what is your ideology?
So what I would say earlier, like I mentioned, run your own race at your own pace. So you have to take the same approach. What is your risk tolerance? What are your cash flow needs? Some people would say they just invest in bonds and certificates of deposits and treasuries because they just want the cash flows because they may just be senior citizens or they may just be a risk. They're risk averse. So therefore, they don't want to take on that much risk. So if that is your preference, and you do not prefer to scale, you can decide to get like 5 rentals and own them free and clear, and you get enough cash flow to live your best life.
Gotcha.
On the other hand, if you are ambitious and you have a high risk tolerance, you may decide to invest in stocks where you actually make your portfolio 100% stocks. So you could be like Warren Buffett. And therefore, that's where you cash your bucket. So you may decide that I'm going to buy properties, but I'm always going to use leverage, whether I'm using 25% down and I'm using a 75% LTV or 80% LTV, but you decide to do leverage. And now that means that, let's say you're in the stocks area, now you're going to decide how risky you want to be. Are you going to buy value add stocks? Are you going to buy growth stocks? Are you going to use leverage to buy properties that are turnkey or value add or for guts? So now you have to decide. That's why I say it's your preference and also your risk tolerance that you have to factor in. My risk tolerance and preference is that I prefer to use leverage and be able to do cash out refis on properties because I know it takes a long time if you want to scale. If you want to go from a business like I used to make like $8,500 a year in annual rent in 2009, then we got to like 85,000 2018, and now I make well over like 130,000 every month for rental income. So if you want to grow fast, then you're going to probably have to use some leverage or you're going to have to partner with other people. So it all comes down to your personal preference. So that's how I tend to look at it because I understand the power of leverage and also the risk. So I'm willing to take that on.
Gotcha. So now, as far as speaking about risk and risk tolerance, because I know you're an investment banker before. So what did you take from that profession and applied it to your real estate business?
Well, one thing, the benefit of working on Wall Street, being an investment banker, equity research analyst, and also working at a hedge fund, is that I was able to really understand the best practices and systems that you put in place. Going to like Goldman Sachs, having world-class training for 6 weeks, being taught by some of the top professionals around the world, going to conferences and working with multi-billion-dollar clients, opened my eyes to understanding what it means to run a business versus just being self-employed, because they always had a lot of turnover, whether it was a VP or someone leaving. So you understand that, okay, you need to create a well-oiled machine that if you do have to replace someone, the business will continue to live as an individual. We like to say the business has its own social security number, the EIN number. The business actually should have its own functioning body that goes along with that social security number. And so that's one thing I learned on Wall Street. So now my business, we write stuff up. We have the best practices and best systems in place. What do you do? Here are the 4 things. If you can't reach this person, reach that person. If we have this issue, this person has credit card, this person can write it off, this person had check writing ability. This is our backup plumber. This is our backup person. So we're starting to put in best practices and systems that I learned from Wall Street. I brought that to this business. But also thinking about risk in terms of when we take something on, what is the base case scenario? What is the worst case scenario? And what is the best case scenario? And then what we're going to do is put a probability to each one. So it may be a 30% probability for the best case scenario, a 50% probability for the base case. And that leaves us with only 20% chance for the worst case scenario. And we add those numbers up after they're multiplied against each scenario. to figure out what is likely to happen here, whether we're thinking about the rent, whether we're thinking about a rehab. So I think I've taken that analytical skills, and also the professional training, and I apply it to my everyday business.
Gotcha. I love that. I love it. So you also spoke about how you hire family as well.
Yeah.
So you would hear a lot of horror stories about people hiring family and how, they may get a little too comfortable. They've known you as, your cousin KR for a long time, but now you're the boss, and it's like, well, why are you talking to me? We're just playing ball in the backyard. You know what I mean? So why are you speaking this way? So what is your thoughts on hiring family? What are the pros and cons of hiring family?
So what I think is so important is that we tend to forget that our family members are individuals. What we do is we give complete strangers multiple chances to make mistakes. So a complete stranger could have been out partying all night last night and came to work late, and you wouldn't even know about it. You just say, why are you coming to work late? But if it is your brother or your sister and you happen to be with them or you hear about it, you're going to say, I heard you was out all night. What's going on, bro? You can't be doing that. I'm paying you a lot of money. I can go hire a stranger. Right. And what you're doing is that's a double standard. You have to give your family members the same grace that you give complete strangers in terms of evaluating their work. Right. And so I tell people, if you're willing to give complete strangers multiple chances, I think you first should start giving your family members multiple chances. But on top of that, you also should meet your family members where they are and meet the employees where they are. So if you hire someone to cut grass, you're not going to think they're going to be like a master mathematician, because that's not what you hired them for. So figure out what you're hiring family members for and meet them where they are. Don't pull people where you are saying, oh, I went to Ivy League school, so I expect you to think like me. I went to Wall Street and worked on Wall Street, no, that's not the way this works. And so I think that is why people tend to struggle in terms of hiring family members, because they don't meet people where they are and they use a double standard. And the other thing is that you have to use the same measures that you would use in terms of hiring a stranger. Figure out what these people's strengths are and also see if they're teachable and trainable, because you probably won't come across a finished product, whether that is if you hire a stranger or a family member. So it's your job to assess which family members make the cut, just like you assess what strangers make the cut. And I think that tends to be the problem, is that we don't spend enough time on the front end, and therefore we regret it on the back end. So I have multiple family members working for me, a nephew, niece, a brother, my brother's father-in-law, his mother-in-law. I have an aunt. I have multiple family members. But do I have the entire family? No. I have my stepmom working for me and my other brother working for me. So at any given moment, I can have multiple family members, whether they're unpaid interns or they're getting paid like 1099, things of that nature, or they're just day laborers. So I think we need to change the way we think about operating our businesses with regard to family members, change the way we do business, so therefore we could ultimately do better business.
Gotcha. So whenever you're hiring family members, do you also have them go through a regular application process, or is it you're good at this, let me give you a chance? Like what is your process of hiring these family members?
The same process is hiring like a regular person. So it's the same process. So if you're hiring like a regular person to do a certain job, you're going to want them to submit information. So you're going to talk to references. You're going to make them go through an interview process, whether that's your nephew or your niece. Like, for instance, my niece was actually one of my interns. She had to interview with my business partner, Jody, who's the co-owner of KJ Consulting. And then I said, if you talk to Jody and he likes you, he makes the decision. It's not about me, but these are the channels. Then after that, you get advanced. You can talk to me next final rounds. So yes, so we will screen like my other nephew and niece, they're working with us for property management side. So they'll get interviewed by my brother and also interviewed by my stepmom, and then final rounds is me. So it's like if you're going to a company where they have super days and they're looking for certain things, but remember, we're meeting people where they are. So some of these jobs are not that intense. I'm not hiring for them to be an accountant. I have a CPA to do that. Right, I'm not hiring to be a lawyer. I have a lawyer to do that. I'm not hiring to be my doctor. I have a doctor to do that. I'm hiring them, let's say, for instance, just do some basic administrative work, as if you're like a bank teller. Or I'm hiring you just to do some landscaping work or some snow removal. So this is not rocket science or a clean apartment.
Right. Gotcha. All right. So you said that you also offer internships to your family as well as other folks that may be
Yes.
interested in monitoring. So, what is the importance of internships, whether paid or non-paid, whatever it is? What value do you see in an internship for a young person coming up in college trying to get to that next level?
Well, when I was in college, I interned every summer. My freshman summer, I interned at American Express doing asset management / wealth management. Sophomore year, I did sales and trading at Potential Securities in New York on the precious metals desk and also on the Mercantile Exchange. My junior year, I did investment banking at Credit Suisse in the technology group. And so I'm a big proponent of people doing internships because it gives you exposure and it just teaches you the best practices and it gives you the opportunity to just model yourself. Really, the people should be paying you because you have no experience. You're more likely going to mess up. You don't know
Right.
anything.
Right.
And so it's an opportunity for a young person or even an older person or just a person that's not familiar with the role, the opportunity for them to learn and grow into the position. So I think internships are so important because a lot of these businesses is apprenticeship. And so you have to learn the job. You have to learn the job on the job.
Gotcha.
Some people, they may be young, 16, to, oh, I know how to cut grass, but that's probably not the right way. You just want to push the lawnmower. No, there's an art to a lot of things. And in many
Right.
respects, they're a science. And so we have to figure out how do we operate in these different circles. And so that's why I think internships are so viable. Because if you don't have the exposure or no one willing to take a chance on you, you could be forever stuck in your current position.
Gotcha. So now that you've gotten this experience, you've had your Wall Street experience, you've gone into real estate, landlords, different investments. What was the transition to learning this information and then saying, you know what, now I want to teach others this information as well?
Well, the thing is that I've always been very fascinated with investments and wealth management and business. And as I was going through the process, I was encouraged by my mentors and sponsors to always give back. So it's always an opportunity to teach someone for free or take someone under your belt. And so after doing a couple years doing it for free, I start actually taking on some paid clients, which was like Jody, my business partner for KJ Consulting, where he actually was one of my private students. And first he was an intern, he was a private student. Then after that, he was a debt investor, then he became an equity investor. And then we were sitting around when I was getting ready to leave Wall Street, and he said, we should start KJ Consulting, where we can start teaching the masses your philosophy on investing. Because he went from zero doors in 2018 to now he has over 60 plus rental doors. And he went from not being a millionaire to being a multimillionaire in just a short time period. And so I think that's how it went from, I didn't really have a social media presence until September of 2020. And now we went from having 2 followers on KJ Consulting to having over 61,000.
Gotcha. I love it. And so if you were to kind of sum up what your overall philosophy is, because I know there's a lot of people that have different strategies. So for example, there's a guy that he has a program out here, Total Wealth Academy, and his timeline of investments. And of course, you want to go from one end to the other. It starts off on the lower end with wholesaling and flipping houses. Then it goes to single family rentals. And then eventually you want to graduate into multifamily, and then the end is syndication. And that's like his timeline and what his philosophy of real estate is. So if you can kind of sum up what your philosophy is, what would you say is like a timeline or overall objective is for your philosophy of real estate?
Our philosophy is you run your own race at your own pace, and we are buy and hold investors. So we actually do not encourage people to run into the Airbnb game because the rules can change on you like they did in New York, where now it's going to hurt all those guys are in Atlanta or in Dallas or in Philadelphia. So we're not Airbnb guys. We can teach you because one of my business partners and my brother, he does Airbnb, but that's not for me, but he does it. So I know the pros and cons. So we are buy and hold. We encourage people to actually start buying real estate in their personal name first. Get up to 10 rental units, 10 mortgages in your personal name so you can take advantage of all the down payment flexibility, all the lower interest rate, all these different programs, because we believe that Through that, you'll put yourself in a position that then you can start the LLC and you can start buying all these properties. We want you to pretty much, because we want the newbies. A lot of people don't have a whole lot of money to put down. Say, for instance, you buy a single family rental, you got to put 20% down if it's in your LLC. But if you bought a single family rental and it's in your personal name and you don't live in it, you can put down 15%. So it's the opportunity for people to get into the game, and your interest rate will be lower if it's in your personal name than if it's in the LLC. Your insurance premium will be lower. Your closing costs will be lower if it's in your personal name than the LLC. So of course I have properties in the LLC, but when we first start, we started in our personal name because it just gave us a good grounding and some training. And we do not think greatness takes time. You can't rush greatness. And we think success does not like speed. And so things done well are done soon enough. And so our progression is that you go from single families, then you can go to multi-families, and then you can buy commercial properties, which are 5 units and up. We don't think you have to rush the process. Of course, we have some students who actually can go straight into apartment buildings, but we're just talking about the vast majority. Where do they stand when we talk to people in America who we understand? You have this amount of money. And we also tell people you shouldn't do a full gut rehab if you just last week didn't know how to manage $5,000. I don't know how you're going to manage $300,000 for a rehab. Then you're going to call me and be complaining, saying, KR effed me up. He effed me over. He told me to take out all these credit cards. The rehab went wrong. It was too much risk. So that's our philosophy. We tell people, cash your bucket where you are. Actually start buying rental properties in your personal name. You can even buy 4 units. You can get up to 10 mortgages in your personal name. That could be 1 to 4 units. Of course, if you want to do LLC, you can do that as well. Then we say you can progress to multifamilies or 5 units and up. And we say that you should do value add. We don't suggest, and value add is where not necessarily lipstick. Lipstick is you go and you spend $5,000 on a house you paid for $100,000. We say value add, which it can be you spend up to 50% of the purchase price to make it better. The bathroom, the kitchen, the floors, things of that nature. So it's adding value on multiple levels so that therefore you can do a cash out refi later. So that's kind of like our approach. We don't necessarily suggest people go into syndication if they don't want to. You don't have to buy 5 units and up if you don't want to. I have some students who just bought 10 single families and they're done. And that's how they get their passive income.
Gotcha. Okay. And so do you also suggest flipping properties as well, or is it everything is buying home?
We don't suggest flipping properties either. That's not our thing. But we can teach people, because I have some students that just want to learn stuff, even though I tell them that they don't have to do it. And the reason why we tell them they probably don't want to do that is because flipping property, again, is more risk, right? Because when you flip the property, therefore you are suggesting that you could immediately increase the value of the property such high enough so that you can absorb the higher taxes. When you don't hold a property for a year, you pay higher capital gains tax. So you probably pay 40-something%. If you hold the property for over a year and then sell it, you'll probably pay 20% in capital gains tax. So we're trying to teach people, look, if you want passive income, flipping is not the way. Flipping is a fast way to make money. Wholesaling is a fast way to make money. If you want passive income, you got to find assets that you can hold on to. And over time, the tenants will pay down the debt. You're going to benefit from the tax benefits. You're going to benefit from the cash flows, and you're going to benefit from the appreciation. And so it's hard to keep coming up with ideas on what to flip. So it's very hard. So we tell people, you find like 10 good investments that you can hold on for the rest of your life, it can change your life fundamentally. You don't necessarily have to chase waterfalls or chase everybody else's stuff. Figure out where you fit in, and that's how you're going to be financially free. Because if you get those 10 rentals and they're all making $500 in cash flow after everything's paid, then you got $5,000 a month. And if you keep adding one within maybe 10 years or within 15 years, now you have $10,000 in cash flow added every single month, $120,000 in extra free cash flow that you can actually live off. Most people, if they get up to that level, they're in good shape. They can quit their day job if they want it. But most people are trying to run other people's races. So we don't encourage them to do that. We don't say flip land, don't flip property. People do those things, but that's not what we encourage.
Gotcha. And so, and I know everyone has their own different strategies of how they're finding these discounted properties or properties at cash flow. What is some of your methods of finding these properties? I know people go off of agents, direct to seller. What's something that a couple of ways that you suggest?
What we suggest to our IG subscribers and also our students, our mentees who buy our bundle is we say you have to analyze the market from a macro level, then analyze the market on a micro level, and then analyze individual deals. And what we say is we accept lessons from everybody. So when we mean everybody, we mean everybody. That means everybody at your religious institution or your community service or community committee that you're involved with. They should know you do real estate. All your family members should know you do real estate. Your lawyers, your attorneys, your classmates, everybody, wholesalers, social media, everybody should know this is what you do. And it's your job. You don't have to swing at every ball that comes your way. It's your job to assess whether it makes sense to swing because you can never get struck. You can never strike out. And so that's why we do work with everybody, agents, on market, off market, MLS, Zillow, bankers have REO properties. We also will work with attorneys that have lists, our estate sales, or we can walk down the street and ask people. We can drive for dollars, prop stream. I say accept blessings from everywhere.
Gotcha. I love it. So when I went on your page, I saw something that you're talking about, which was the KJ bundle. So what is the KJ bundle and what can somebody expect if they were to purchase the item?
And so what I had done is decided to create a product that is going to be affordable, that the masses can benefit from. And so this product gives you over $500 worth of value. It has our ebook, which is going to teach you the key terms and strategies and define things for you. What is the BRRRR strategy? What is the HELOC? What is the cash out refi? What is the FHA program? What is the NACA program? It's going to explain all those different things. How can you get to like 8 units in 90 days? How can you do this, that? Breaking it all down so you have a great foundation because you cannot rush greatness. The other thing it's going to do is tell you, how do you register an LLC? How do you get an EIN number? How do you take money off of credit cards? How do you do creative financing? How do you fix your credit? So what I did is I summarized all these key things that people charge people hundreds and hundreds of dollars for, put it all into one bundle. And then on top of that, I give you the Excel analyzer that I've been using my business partner for many years, that you can pretty much put your deals number in there and see if it makes sense. And then we also have a time management component because you have to be able to manage your time. And then we have the 23 tips that I have used to become a multimillionaire. So those are the lessons that's included. And then part two, that's part one of my mentorship. It's self-paced, one-time fee, $49, $4900.
Wow. That's pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah.
$49 for everything. Okay.
Yeah, all of that right there. And then part two is the IG subscription, which is only $4.99. That's less than 17 cents a day. And what you're going to get is over 70 plus recorded live classes where I'm going to go into depth about all these terms. What is a USDA loan? What is a FHA loan? What is a HELOC? How do you do property management? How do you select tenants? How do you scale a business? How do you manage a team? How do you manage construction, contractors? All of that.
Gosh. Okay, we back. All right, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you want me to start over with the
IG subscription? Yeah.
All right. So part two is the IG subscription, where pretty much you're going to have access to over 70 recorded classes, where we will teach you how to analyze the deal, analyze markets. What is a HELOC? What is the BRRRR strategy? Each class go into depth for like 20 to 30 minutes on each subject that is covered inside of the bundle. So the bundle is self-paced if you're one of those people that just want to read. But the classes is going to take it to the next level where it's more interactive with questions and things of that nature. We're also going to have some interviews. We also upload property tours in the IG subscription section. So you're going to be, even if you live anywhere around the world, you're going to see property tours. You also get invited to free meetups and also to free property tours in the Philadelphia area. We just did one last Saturday at my 5-unit apartment building. So those are like the benefits of taking those 2 steps. Buy the bundle for $49, get access to all of that stuff, and also sign up to be an IG subscriber so that you can get access. That's only $4.99. Get access to all that: videos, classes, free stuff in person, and also online.
So a question with the IG subscriptions, because I've seen that on people's pages, but I don't understand what it does. So as soon as somebody would subscribe to your IG, do they just get like some downloads or links, or how does that actually work?
Oh, so the way it works is you click subscribe and then you pay the $4.99, and then you're going to click on the crown. There's a crown on the page, and that page will give you access to all of our classes. You scroll down all the way to over 70 plus classes, videos that you can click on, and you'll be able to start watching stuff immediately. Then what we're also going to do is we create channels. So, and the channel will say only for IG subscribers, where we do Q&A sessions where you can ask any questions you want. And we also will drop links in there about upcoming events and things of that nature. So that's how you can take advantage of the bundle.
Gotcha.
Take advantage of our IG subscription.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay. All right. And so now, all the things that you learned, I'm kind of going back to what you were saying at the beginning, to where you knew there was a better way to kind of get into whether it's real estate or just overall having more income and putting yourself in a better position. And all that came from books and mentorships and all these different things. So something that we like to do whenever we're discussing books is to know what are 3 books, and you can give more if you want, that you would recommend everyone read so that they can get a good foundation, or at least a starting point to get them to where they need to be. So what are some books you recommend?
Well, I would just recommend the one I had mentioned earlier, which is Effective Letters for Every Occasion, because you first have to learn how to comport yourself and communicate yourself, whether that is hiring people, asking for requests, ask someone to be a mentor. So that's number 1. Number 2 will be the other book, which is Clockwork, where you pretty much learn how to set up a business so eventually you can walk away from it and it can run itself. A third book that is really good is Pitch Anything, because eventually you have to figure out how to pitch yourself, but then you also want to know how to pitch ideas.
Gotcha. Okay, good deal. And so now I'll go into the lightning round, and here I just ask a few different questions, and usually they're real estate related. Sometimes I'll add a little bit to it, but we'll go ahead and get this going. So, first question: if you were to invest in one city outside of Pennsylvania, what city would it be and why?
Well, what I really think is there's so many good cities. One city I do like is Columbus, Ohio, or you could say Dayton, Ohio. The reason why I like it is a landlord-friendly state and city, and it has a lot of gentrification taking place. We have businesses moving in. The rents are actually going up. The properties are appreciating. And it's easy to enforce leases. So that's one city I like.
Gotcha. You said Dayton and what else? Cincinnati?
And Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, Columbus. All right. Gotcha. All right. And this is not a real estate question, but I always find these to be interesting. If you could be any animal for a day, what animal would you be and why?
Well, because I saw the movie Lion King when I was growing up, I probably want to be the Lion King because I love the song.
Okay.
So I probably want to be the Lion King.
I love it. Okay, good deal. And if you were to, last question, if you were to invest only in multifamily or single family for the rest of your life, which one would it be and why?
I think at this point of my career, it would probably be multifamily. But if you had asked me this in the very beginning, it would just be single family because of my financial situation. When you buy, and when I say single family, I mean like HUD and the FHA, they consider a 1 to 4 unit single family. So they consider a duplex, fourplex, and triplex and a single family all in the same bucket because you can get an FHA loan, or you can get a NACA loan and things of that nature. So I put that in a separate bucket. It's based on your personal profile and income and credit profile and stuff like that. Now, and if you have limited funds, that's what I was focused on in the earlier part of my career. But now I have more money because when you buy 5 units up, it's a larger down payment requirement. So if I had to go forward, I would just do apartment buildings because they're valued based off of how much income, cash flow that property generates versus 1 to 4 units is based off how the comparables, the comps in the neighborhood, how much they are valued.
Got you. All right. Now, something that you said earlier was if you're having these properties in your personal name that you could put 15% down. Is that some type of program or is that just what it is?
No, that's not. That's not a program. That's across the country. If you do a single family, you can put down 15%. You do a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, you have to put down 25 to 30%. So what happened in real estate, to be successful in real estate, it takes 2 out of 3 things. 1 is knowledge. 2 is grit, ability to stick to something at least for a year and not give up no matter what the world throw at you. And number 3 is money. If you have the knowledge and you have the grit, you will attract the money. And so a lot of people don't understand that we live in a capitalist society. So you have to understand how capital works, which is intellectual capital, social capital, and financial capital. Because as G.I. Joe said, knowing is half of the battle.
I love it. I love it. So if you were to give somebody a first step on what they need to do. So as a person, maybe fresh out of college, and they're like, you know what, I really want to invest in properties. I want to have rental properties. I hear, people online saying how they have all this cash flow coming in. What is the first step that you would recommend they take to take those steps towards that process?
The number 1 step I will recommend is you want to do the KJ Consulting bundle and the KJ Consulting IG subscription, because it's going to give you a solid foundation. It's only $49. It'll define all the terms, all the concepts, all the strategies, and all the information you need to get started. Come up with creative financing, how to use your credit card, be responsible, increase your credit. That will be number 1. And part 2 would be the IG subscription. So you have over 70 plus classes where it's going in even more depth on explaining these things. And then you can bring your questions from the bundle and also from the IG subscription. Bring those questions to class every Tuesday. We have a free class at 7 p.m. Eastern time on IG Live. And we also have exclusive IG subscription Q&A sessions and meetups and property tours where people charge thousands of dollars for these property tours, and ours is completely free. So I would say for a newbie, regardless of where you live in the United States, I would say that's a great place to start because it's only, let's say, $49 plus 5. That's only $54 to get started, and you go from there. I don't think you should waste a whole lot of money. Just learn the basics. You want to be a great athlete, join a great team.
Gotcha. I love it. So this is something I think is very interesting when it comes to today's society and today's access to information. Is like, say, in about 10 years ago, to have this type of information, you had to spend thousands of dollars, maybe go to a person specifically to get this information. But it's like now there's really no excuse to not get this information. Like there's always a program, there's always somebody doing something. But something I would say, and it's great that you also like document your processes as well, is that you want to make sure that you're following somebody who actually does a business and shows proof that they actually have success, and check their social proof. Is it only them saying that they're doing it, or are they on other platforms? Or other people vouching for them? So definitely do your research whenever following folks. And KR, he's definitely one of those folks that you could follow, look at his page, and really do some research on him.
Yeah,
and see.
Talk to the student, read testimonials, do your homework, show up to the events. Plus, you don't got to be spending a whole lot of money. I always tell people you don't have to spend $1,000 on a real estate education to make $1,000 from real estate. So it's no scam. I'm very transparent. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get a course. You're going to get videos to learn. If you don't do anything, you don't show up to the free events, it's not my fault. It's your fault because you're not applying yourself.
Exactly.
It's cheaper than you buying a pair of jeans.
You're right.
Or you go buy sneakers. So just invest in yourself.
Right. I love it. All right. And some words of wisdom for somebody who wants to get started in real estate. What you got for them?
I always tell people, look, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. And the other thing is that you do not know how powerful you are until you start to focus on who you are. A lot of us are having identity crises because we're trying to follow everybody else, but sit back and say, who am I? What do I want to achieve? What's holding me back? You have to be able to not only look in the mirror and see what your weaknesses and strengths are, and be able to look out the window to say there's a chance. But I need you to be able to look around the corner and down the street and say, you know what? I can do more than just look at my goals and dream about them. I can make them a reality and just take baby steps. It's so easy to come up with dreams and come up with ideas. The most difficult part of life is execution. Will you execute for yourself, or will you just execute for someone else?
Love it. I love it. I love it. Hey, thank you so much. And for the folks that want to follow you, where can they find you and where can they find more information about you?
So the way to follow me, you can find me on KJ Consulting, KayJConsulting, KJ Consulting on Instagram. Our website is www.kjconsulting.net. You can also email us at kjcoaches@gmail.com. We are going to have a blast this year. We are doing so many things, free property tours, meetups, everything you can believe is possible. We try to deliver. We're updating our ebook, which is going to be like 60, 70 pages. So we're going to give you so much value that you're going to be blown away. The only thing you have to do is execute.
I love it. I love it. Hey, Kara, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you doing this podcast with us.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Your First Steps podcast. Let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a review. And don't forget to subscribe.